This is the Ohio Writers Guild, and we meet up the second Tuesday of every month at 6:30. And tonight we are talking to Jessica Butler. I was just sharing with Jessica, and if she remembers that, I was scrolling around on Facebook, and it was a whole other writers group. I don't even remember the name of the writers group. Do you remember the name of it?
Um, there it was the New Authors, I think was the name of it,
I
something
think
like
it
that.
was. And there was this beautiful picture of Jessica standing there with her book, and it had beautiful colors on the book, and
Oh, thank you.
she was beautiful, and the book was beautiful. And I said, oh, I need to interview her. She was so excited in the post. And so I did a little research, and I found her and sent her a message and told her that I would love to talk with her on the Ohio Writers Guild, and she agreed. And so as a little girl, Jessica used to frequent the library with her mom, where she was allowed to pick out as many books as possible. She said the stack was usually higher than she was.
Mhm.
She gave out advice to the adults on the best cat books to take out for their kids. I take it you liked cats. Yeah.
Yep.
So today, Jessica lives in Pennsylvania with her husband, Andrew. Her sassy toddler, is it Mila or Mila?
Mila.
Mila, and even sassier cat, Barnaby. Yeah, so she does like cats. She's a foodie at heart. Oh, so am I. Appreciates a strong pour glass of, say that, the
Pinot
wine,
Noir.
Pinot Noir, and is still a proud owner of her local library card.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Now, I want to find out, first of all, tell us about, because this is a group of writers, and what we do is we interview authors like yourself, and at the end of the session I upload the actual links and I save those. And so for folks, I'm going to actually put it here in the chat. So for all of you folks that are listening, I got to click it so it goes to everyone. I'm going to put the site. You just go to kathybinner.com and scroll down my homepage until you come to the Ohio Writers Guild free, the free stuff. And if you click through there, you will see all of our replays. So you'll see all of the replays of all the authors that we've talked to over the last couple of years. And there's just some great stories in there, great how-tos. We've even talked to some publishers. So if there's some on the call that are in the process of publishing, you can go there and listen to some of that. And there's all kinds of resources in that site. So please go there, kathybinner.com. I put it in the chat. So make a note of that. You can see my name right here. I feel like we're on Hollywood Squares. I'm dating myself. Do you remember Hollywood Squares, Jessica?
Okay. I do.
So anyhow, so there's my name, Kathy Binner, and it's just kathybinner.com. Scroll down, Ohio Writers Guild, free. And that's where you'll find all those replays. So anyway, as we're talking to these authors, it's just so exciting to find out, you know, how old you were when you wanted to write a book. When did you start thinking about writing a book? I mean, what was that process? Tell us a little bit about your writing journey early on until you actually started writing. And is this your first book, by the way?
This is my first book, yes.
Okay, first book. All right. So give us a little bit of background.
Sure. So as my biography said, I've always been an avid library goer. I've always loved reading. I used to be that person that would take out like 3 books at one time and then get screwed over because I was late on payments, like returning it back. And I was just, always so fascinated with that. I never really saw myself as being a writer or being interested in becoming a writer until I actually had an idea for a children's book for my cat Barnaby. And
okay.
So I worked on that about like 6 years ago, maybe, and it never really came to fruition. The stars weren't aligning with it. So fiction writing was never something that I had envisioned for myself at all. And I used to create these like quotes that I would put on social media and, talk about self-love and spiritual things like that. And one day, it was during the pandemic. It was about a month into the pandemic. So back in like April 2020.
Okay, so not that long ago. For those of you that have that
ago.
manuscript on your shelf for the last 10 years, listen, listen to Jessica.
Yeah, not that long ago. I had been working a 9-to-5 job and
oh wow,
at a sign company at the time. And because of everything going on, places were shutting down, their signs it wasn't happening. So they actually put about 85 to 90% of the staff on furlough.
Oh, wow.
So I went from doing 9 to 5 to being at home, being 24/7 mom to a 10-month-old.
Wow.
Big transition. So, I had a lot of time to think about and take the moment as to what was the silver lining here. This was something that I couldn't control. None of us could control. Was it supposed to happen for a reason? Like, was there supposed to be a pause in what I was doing and look into something else? So my daughter, like, bless her, she used to take 3-hour naps. And she would do that every single day. So for 3 hours, I had time for myself.
Very
And
nice. And you decided to start writing.
yeah, I started thinking back on one of the quotes that I wrote about a year ago before this. And one of the quotes was, "Is the grass really greener on the other side, or is it simply artificial?" And for some reason, one day I was just, watching TV or something, and the quote popped back into my brain. And I just had this weird thought of, why don't I just start writing something with that premise? No pressure on myself
Okay.
whatsoever. No, this is going to turn into a book. I did not have that thought at all. I just wanted to use my brain in a creative way, because I had missed doing that from, not being
Okay.
at my job. So it started completely out of the blue. And then once it started, I couldn't stop. Like, it just was flowing out. And
Now,
it just kind of,
did you just fall in love with those characters?
yes,
And they
yes,
became family, didn't they?
yes. And
Yes.
I would write a chapter and then be like, why did you do that? Like, come on. I would get mad at the main character, and then I would, sympathize with her. And, I would think about the male main character, and I, created a Pinterest board with like what actors I wanted to play it in a future
Okay.
movie. Just visualizing everything, because that made it feel so real to me.
Yes.
So,
And that helps your writing be, I think, more creative too, because now you're describing more.
yeah, yeah,
Because you're visualizing.
yeah. It was really nice. I would be writing a chapter and I could see it being talked as if it wasn't a movie at the same time, which was cool
Yeah.
because I was writing,
Yeah.
but I was also observing it. Um, so it happened very quickly. And now now I can't stop. So
I love it. I love it. Now, I saw the book and I saw what it was about. I did not get a chance to get a copy yet. Do you have a copy there
yes,
close
I do.
by? Yes, hold up the book. Isn't that a great cover? I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Sweet Pear. So I'm going to read just a little bit so folks know what the book is about. Elle Elverson, Ella, just Elle, E-L-L-E, just Elle Elverson, a mostly happily married, successful writer, wakes up one morning with a man other than her husband, Ryan, lying next to her. The kicker is she knows who this man is. It's none other than the one who broke her heart and soul, whom she hasn't spoken to in many years. It's her ex-boyfriend, Josh Wilson. With the help of her best friend, Gwen, she's on a mission to recover the missing pieces of what happened, what life she's entered, and whom does she really desire to be in it. Is the grass really greener on the other side, or is it simply artificial? I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. So I can't wait to read the book. I did
I'm
not get
excited.
a chance to read the book. But anyway, as you were writing this, did you leave a little cliffhanger at the end for a sequel?
I did.
Okay. Now I really want to read it. And of course, now I'm going to have to, go in and become a fan so that when the next book comes out.
Yes, I'd love that. I'm already writing the second one. So,
Okay. So now what actually motivated you? Is it because of the being home and having some free time and just getting creative, and that's what actually motivated you to start writing?
yeah, it can be, I mean, motherhood is a wonderful thing, but it can also be very lonely. And, when you're giving yourself to, especially at that time, a 10-month-old baby 24/7, there's when you have a moment that's actually yours and something that you can use that's creative and
Mhm.
your own passion that's coming out and your own identity that's coming out separate from that, it just becomes, for me, it became like addictive.
Okay.
It was just great to just something that, like I said before, I had no pressure on myself on what it would turn into. But as I kept writing, I was just like, I'm going to keep going with this. Another chapter, another chapter, another chapter. And then it was so much fun. And it's been so much fun the whole process.
I love that. I love that. Now, as you're writing this manuscript, you start off, you're being creative, your daughter's napping, and it's something that you can, and you're expanding your brain power, so to speak, because now you're home all day. When did you decide that it actually could be a book? Was it early on, or did you write for a while before you decided this should be a book?
No, I mean, I didn't know exactly how I was going to go about publishing wise. But I also knew that if I waited on that decision, I would self-sabotage and never do
Okay.
anything with it. So I kind of just kept telling myself in the back, like, just get your words out, just get the characters out, just get the
Okay.
story out.
Okay.
And then when you get to that point at the end, then you can figure out what are some of your options, how would you go about, that,
Okay.
and go from
Okay.
there.
All right. For those of you that are listening, put in the chat, do you have a manuscript that you're working on? And how long have you been working, or are you just thinking? So if you haven't written anything yet, type the word thinking. If you've written something, give us some time frame. Has it been 6 months? Has it been a year? How long have you been actually thinking about and starting to write? So let's see some stuff in the chat, and make sure you click when you open up the chat. Make sure that you click everyone where it says to, because you can send it just to the host and panelist or to everyone. So make sure you send it to everyone. We've got Cheryl, David, Irene, Kyle, and Leslie on the call so far. And okay, 9 months, Book of SOs, just finished writing a book, self-published December 5. David, yay. Cheryl says 9 months, Book of Essays. Irene says yes, forever. I get that. I get that. Yes. Yes, forever. Yes, that's me. Yes, forever. So now you say you made time in your schedule because, of course, your little girl was napping in the afternoons. And so that gave you time. Did you write every time? I mean, did you write even on the weekends, through the week? Were there times that you were like, couldn't wait for her to get to nap so that you could get to writing?
Yes.
Tell
And
us about that.
there were times too, like when I should have been going to sleep, where I just couldn't because I had to get certain ideas out, or I would get an idea out of nowhere for a certain chapter or a new character to come in. So I would quickly jot that down. I would just jot it down on my phone notes, just kind of like an outline,
Okay.
and some specifics that I wanted to include. And either, if I felt like I wanted to get out of bed and start writing more, I would. If I
Oh,
wanted to go on a different day, I would do that too.
well, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Did you map out this storyline ahead of time? I mean, did you kind of know how it was going to end as you started writing, or did it take on a life of its own?
A little of both. So
Okay.
I knew the premise because I kind of worked off of that quote that for some reason was jumping out to me. So I knew that the idea of what if you took a different path? What if something happened that caused it to go a different path? But I did do a rough outline of, like, pivotal moments that I wanted to be covered.
Okay.
Um, there were times even when I thought the book was done and I was rereading it and editing it, and I had a whole new chapter that came out of nowhere that I would just throw in somewhere because it just felt important, or you looked at it with
Oh,
different eyes, as time went on.
now I know when I write, as I like to call it, I like my writing to get cold. And
Mhm.
then I can go back and read it again, and sometimes I'll go, wow, that was really good.
Yeah.
I did a good job on that. And then sometimes I'll go, oh boy, there's really something missing, like right here.
Mhm.
Did you allow it to get cold before you actually, finally started editing, or or are you one of those that you kind of write and edit as you go?
No, I started doing that, and then I was like, I'm wasting too much time. I feel like I'm getting so caught up in, like, the little parts that I just need
Yep,
to
yep.
calm down and just relax and get it all out, and then you can go back later. So yeah, I would reread. I reread it a lot before I ended up doing anything. Even before I got it, like it proofread or anything, I reread it a lot.
Okay.
And even afterwards, I read it again and again and again. And to be honest with you, I still read it. Like I still
Okay.
pick it up and read it. Um, and it's interesting because each time you read it, it's just like, I don't know, like different parts jump out at you, or there's just like you have different emotions as you're reading it.
So when you started developing these characters, were there any new characters that were a surprise to you that you hadn't thought of as you were writing the book?
There is one character in particular that's she has a small little scene, but she was so much fun to write. Like she was funny. She was making me laugh as I was writing it.
Okay.
And I had thought about including her in the second book, but I wasn't sure. And I got so much feedback of how people thought that she was so funny. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe she'll have a
Okay.
different twist in the next one.
Okay. Okay. I love that. I love that. So now what happens when when life gets in the way and you're wanting to write and and the baby's crying or that day is totally different from the rest of your days. Maybe you've got doctor visits that day or
Mhm.
grocery shopping you have to do. How did you maneuver around that? Did you have like a deadline
I
that you
had I had a rough deadline. Um,
okay.
so, I started writing it in April of 2020. I had told myself that I would like it to be out the following year,
Okay.
um, like in the fall. My birthday's in October, and for some reason I had that I just wanted to celebrate.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
so that was like my loose deadline of myself.
Okay.
But I wasn't stressing myself out with it. I wasn't
Okay.
treating it like if something got in the way, or Mila got sick, or I didn't feel motivated. If I didn't feel motivated, or I didn't feel like I was in like a funk mood,
Okay.
then I didn't have to do anything. Or I could delete it, and that would be fine too.
Okay. Okay. So now, don't give away the book, but
Okay.
can you tell us a little bit about your thinking process as your storyline unfolded?
Hmm.
Don't give it away in case because there's folks
um,
who are going to want to read it, and I did read your little synopsis there.
yeah. Yeah. It How you asked before if I fell in love with the characters, I think that was like something that was surprising because I got very invested with them. Um, and I would think about them as I was falling asleep, and I would think
Oh wow.
about like what did she think when this happened, or what was he thinking with this, or how are they going to have a conversation about this, or what would their one steamy scene be like things like that. And it got like I got very invested in it. And then it's almost like when you finish a good book, or you finish, like a good movie or a show, and you get sad
Mm-hmm.
when it's like done, like that those are your friends.
Oh,
Like in a weird way, but they're like your friends that you've been working with.
but you can visit them anytime by picking up the book again.
Yep,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
I love that. I love that. Now, what advice do you have? We've got, it looks like some new authors here, like 9 months book of essays, and Irene is like Yes Forever, and then again, David just finished writing a book and self-published December
Awesome.
5. So we're going to hear about that. Maybe I'll get David to share a little bit. So anyway, do you have some advice for new authors?
Yeah, my advice
Want to
would
be
be,
authors?
sure, it would be just start writing. As simple as that sounds, just write. You don't have to have everything mapped out. Nothing has to be perfect. The editing thing, like you were saying, where if you write and edit, like sometimes that can consume you. And then you're so focused on the editing, or so focused on how somebody's going to read something, that it
Mhm.
sounds constructed and it sounds off instead of actually coming from you. Um, so that would be a piece of advice, to just take that pressure off of yourself and just write. And
Just authentically just put it on paper.
yes, because I feel that
Yeah.
that'll translate.
Now, did you have, and I know we hear a lot when we're writing, I write courses. And so one of the things that I hear all the time is that I have to have my avatar in my mind. Who is my audience going to be? Who is this reader going to be? Did you have a particular reader in mind at the whole time you were writing this, that, like, you know, some folks say, oh, this is definitely going to be, you know, and for folks that are interested in the romance, or this is definitely for, you know, teen readers or whatever. Who was your avatar? Who was your reader going to be as this book was coming out of you?
To be honest, it was me. the kind of reader that I am, the kind of books that I enjoy, which is I like romance, not too smutty, but like with some mystery to it. You know, yeah, as I was writing it, I was enjoying it as I was writing it, as if I were reading it, if that makes sense.
It does. And I've created a whole online academy, and somebody said, well, how do you write a whole online academy? And I go, well, I'm actually answering all the questions that would have been my questions, an earlier version of me. And so I'm kind of writing my courses for an earlier version of me. So I get that. Yeah, I get that. So that is very interesting. Now, is there an underlying message throughout your book? And the reason I'm asking that is, there some way that you could monetize the book in more ways than just selling the book?
Yes, I would say that the message throughout the book ultimately is about self-love.
Okay.
And not giving away too much in the book, but you know, the premise is based off of something that happens that's confusing to the main character, which you read in the little blurb. She's not sure how she ended up there, how that all happened, but there's choices, there's life lessons, and you know, through it all, it's learning about yourself and why you're in these scenarios.
So you could, and I'm an advocate of this, and it's one of the things that we're doing in the Ohio Writers Guild, is we're trying to show folks how they can write from anywhere in the world, and then they can actually monetize those books into something more than just the sale of the book. So have you thought in that area at all on if you wanted to have like a little mastermind group, a little book club, or a course, or is there anything else that's been, you know, kind of simmering under the surface there that you think you might be able to monetize?
I haven't gone that route. It's interesting because originally when I was working at the 9 to 5, I was toying a little bit with and doing some things that was regarding like self-love coaching. Which is interesting because maybe that kind of spiraled into it without me realizing it, but it was, you know, basically how if yourself isn't dealt with or full, that it's going to bleed into other relationships as well.
Absolutely. And I could see that. With the book. I could see you actually using that kind of as a springboard, if you will. Because if you have some clarity that you're going to turn it into some coaching type sessions, then your second book, you could actually have that in mind as they get into their predicaments throughout the book. And so that it all ties together. I love that. So it's open-ended and there's all these possibilities. How exciting.
Yes.
That is very exciting. So what are your plans for the future? Are your plans to how many books are going to be in this series, maybe?
Right now I say 2. I originally thought 3, but you know, unless as I'm writing the second one, some other stuff comes out that I'm like, oh, this can expand. I would say 2. I originally wrote the first book not even thinking that it was going to be 2. And when I finished it, I had that moment where I was really sad. And then I had a lot of reviews asking me like, when is the sequel coming? What is it? Is there one? Is there a second one? I'm like, I'm going with it. So
I love it. So it's happening very organically for you. I love that. I love that. Listen, I want to open it up for folks, and we don't have that many on the call tonight, so I am going to allow some other folks to talk here. And so let us know if you have some questions, and we'll just get some questions here in real time. So does anyone have a question for Jessica?
This is Dave. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
I don't have a question, but I want to share with Jessica a story about self-love involving my 7-year-old son when he was 7 years old. A local department store had this Secret Santa department where they would let the kids go in and shop and they'd wrap the presents up. And so we sent him in and to buy presents for all the people he loves. So pretty soon this store employee came hustling out to us and said, he wants to buy a Christmas present for himself. Is that okay? And we said, absolutely. We said to buy a present for everybody he loves. So I think it's a very important message that young children understand that it's okay. So I applaud you, Jessica, for your message in the book.
Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much, David. Tell us briefly. I know we're talking to Jessica, but tell us briefly about your book.
My book is called The Only Thing. And it's available now about Amazon. It's about my high school wrestling experiences 50 years ago.
Okay.
And so a teammate of mine wrestled a very famous athlete, African-American athlete, and he wasn't a very good wrestler, but he was motivated by his father for all the wrong reasons, based on a prejudice. And so he wrestled a very good match and almost won. So I based my story on that and what was going on in Columbus, Ohio at the time. And at the end of the book, after the match, they get together and talk and find out they have more in common than they ever would have really realized it, so.
Okay.
So that's
well, very interesting. Yes. So thank you for being on, and let me know if maybe you'd like to share your backstory sometime, because it's all about inspiring authors to actually get out there and get published. So any other questions? We still have Cheryl and Irene, Leslie, and Kyle. Any other questions today?
Yes, this is Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl. Tell us.
Hi. Can you
Cheryl,
see
where are you coming to us from? Where are you?
Worthington, Ohio.
Okay, perfect.
I've been a professional writer for a long time. I'm 65, but I've worked in a corporate. I've been I was at the Dispatch for a decade. I was a writer, reporter, editor, and I'm now, I was a technical writer and magazine editor, and now I work at a software company. I started an editorial department, and I help everybody's nouns agree with their verbs. I'm very well published as far as professional writing. I've messed around with writing a book forever. And I'm a great essay writer, because back in the day when I edited the Mount Vernon News or even at the Dispatch, I would write op-ed pieces when they had nobody else. They would ask me, and I'd write about how I ate too many Girl Scout cookies or whatever. And so I can write, but I don't always want to be funny. It could be serious. And I've got some pretty decent essays. I paid for a workshop in New York with an online thing that was quite expensive with some well-published writers that they liked it. But I would like to, okay, first of all, is it David, the wrestling writer?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
David, have you had writing aspirations before this? You just thought of the story and then you wrote it?
Not really. I was inspired by COVID because I was locked up in a condominium with my girlfriend, and after a month of fixing up her house, I needed an excuse to do something else besides working on the house. So I said, I always had this book I wanted to write. So that was kind of the.
Is she still alive? You didn't kill her? Well, what is your profession, your day job, David?
I am a financial analyst accountant.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
I'm
had
an
this-
editorial director at a software company. Well, so, okay, you self-published. Now I'm going to go to Jessica. How'd you get that published?
I self-published as well.
I was going to say that's a great question. Is how what avenue she went through in publishing? Did you actually research some traditional publishers, or did you just always kind of know you were going to self-publish?
I was not sure actually, and I originally thought that I was going to go the traditional route. But I worked with an editor, and she also did some workshops where she talked about traditional versus self-publishing and what the pros and cons were. She's had her books that she's done, she published both ways. So she was giving her knowledge on that and what avenues and what steps I'd have to take for each. And
an editor when you self-publish?
what's that?
Do you have an editor when you self-publish or?
I did, just because I knew this person before, and I had followed her before because she has a Facebook group for writers as well.
Do you have a design or creative graphics person that?
So actually, when I was speaking with the editor, she told me all about how I would go and do that, because I had no clue. I had the words. I was like, I don't know how to take this and put this in the book form. It would look terrible. So
That's why you get to Random House or whatever, and they do it. But go ahead.
Right. So she had told me about a bunch of different sites where they have freelancers that are on there that do that work. So one of the ones that I used was Fiverr.
Yes.
And I met a girl on there, and she actually did the formatting for me plus the design of the book. So she did both, which I really liked, because I liked having it just in one hand like that. And going through that process.
Just ordered your book on Amazon, by the way. I love the cover.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to give it to my daughter after I read it, because she is also a writer, a fine writer, but she's finished the book and now she's stuck. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
It might be my daughter's role model, but anyway, those are all my questions. That's helpful. I just wondered why you went that route, really, but I was a book editor for 5 years in niche publishing. It was really exciting. It was automotive manufacturing books. And I did this for 4 years, and I worked with people that were like uneducated, but they were really super smart. And so it was a tough job, but publishing as we used to know it is gone. You can go
change. There's the traditional, there's the self-publishing, and then there's 1,000,001 variations in between of all those hybrid type publishings. And it just depends on how much you want to do yourself and how much you want to just pay somebody else to do. And a lot of times it's budget driven. A lot of times it's like, well, here's how much money I have to put into this. So what can I do for this amount of money?
What about if you just want to submit it to an agent and let them do all the work? But does that exist anymore? Do either of you know?
Yes. As a matter of fact, a couple of months ago, we had an actual publishing agent that we interviewed. Her name is Bree Stevens. And if you go to the kathybinner.com, scroll down to the Ohio Writers Guild, to the free stuff, and click through, you'll see our whole interview with Bree.
So people can still go the traditional route, and you don't have to worry about the graphics and the design and all that.
Correct.
But what about compensation? Who does better?
Who does better for what?
Like if you self-publish, or if you try to submit to maybe one of the bazillion indie houses, or who does better financially if you do it that way or self-publish?
Well, I think at that point, it's going to be how much money you want to spend and how much of it you want to do yourself or pay someone else to do it. At the other end, and here's just my opinion, at the other end, when you're ready to market your book, that pretty much falls on you to have a book launch and get it out there and kind of, all of us have seen on television when some celebrity writes a book, they're making the circuit. They're on all the talk shows talking about their new book. And that's why, because they're out there promoting and doing their own marketing. And
but I thought if you submit a manuscript or your agent submits it, you don't pay any money. They pay you, right?
And again, it depends. It depends on, because again, there's 1,000,001 hybrids out there. So if it's a traditional publishing and they want to publish your book, but then again, it depends on so many factors on what the book is about and how big your audience is going to be and where they're going to, place the book once it's published. And so you almost have to just make a kind of a chart and just kind of chart it out as to, this company, this is what I get. And with this company, this is what I get. And just kind of chart it out until you make your decision.
Thank you.
Now, I know a lot of people who go through what is called the query process, and they're forever searching for an agent and they're forever searching for a publisher. And that's certainly a fine route to go. You're not going to get as much per book as if you self-publish, but you're not going to have to do the marketing yourself. But as a first-time author, my opinion was that was kind of a fool's errand, because with no, I mean, if you're Stephen King, yes, they're going to publish your next book. They don't even have to read it, they're going to publish it. But as a first-time author, it can be very, very difficult to find a publisher. Finding an agent to help you would be a great first step, and then let that agent do that. But even getting an agent to work with you is difficult. But if that's a good errand to search for agents. You can go online and you can find agents. There are various websites that have them, and it certainly is a worthwhile effort to do that and send them your manuscript. Many of these people are very responsive. Surprisingly, they will read your book and get back to you. Not right away necessarily, but nothing wrong with trying to get an agent to help you in that endeavor.
That was helpful, David. Thank you.
Yes, David, thank you so much. And David, where are you coming to us from? Where are you located?
I'm located in Circleville, Ohio.
Circleville. I'm in Canal Winchester.
Okay, about an hour south of Columbus.
Yeah, I'm in Canal Winchester. I'm just about 20 minutes southeast of Columbus, and you are south, a little bit on the southwest corner of Columbus. Not quite, but almost due south, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, so I can get to you in about 20 minutes. So we sometimes will go to Circleville just to have dinner because we're that close. So yes, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Leslie put a question in the chat, and her question was, what editing service did you use, Jessica?
Yeah, so I can actually, if it's okay, I could send the information to you, Kathy, to put like in the group.
Absolutely.
Because she, like I said, she has her own Facebook group and everything too, but I don't have her information like on hand, but I can pass that on.
Yes, yes. And again, what I'll do is we're recording this, and I do all the links, and it goes both directions. Once the recording is done, I send a copy of the recording also to Jessica so she can use it however she wants in any of her marketing materials. Then I also put it in that platform at kathybinner.com where you scroll down and go into the free stuff. And I'll put it there, I'll post it there. And that's where I can then add all of that information. Once Jessica sends it over to me, I will put all of that in there so you can have it. Perfect. Any other questions? This is great. Do we have any questions? Kyle's been so quiet.
I would like to hear about the book that Irene has been working on forever.
Well, I do not see Irene. Let me look and see.
She was there a minute at 6:46. So well.
Yep. I think she had to jump off. And it could be that she had something else going this evening and she couldn't stay on.
Well, Jessica, I think it's good that you were young when you started, because when you get older, you start to get this block. Like, I can write circles around people and publish in journalism, whatever, but writing a book is like, scares the crap out of me, whatever. You just like did it. Mm-hmm. And that was, you're young and you just did it. And keep going, baby.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jessica, can you put in the chat for us? Can you put how folks can connect with you and how they can find your book? Do you have that information there in front of you?
Yes, let me type it out real quick.
All right, good. So Jessica is going to do that. And again, I love that all of you are on the call with us, and where we're headed with this, we do have our own website, and it's the OhioWritersGuild.com. And again, it's just, we're kind of new as far as putting together some courses and some training. But one of the things we're going to do is that we're going to bring in some folks that can help with some of these questions. And we want to have a list of authors that want to put themselves out there as speakers, for example, so that you can start to get some mileage with your material that you're writing, and folks will actually contact us when they need a speaker for a particular group or organization. And then we're also going to have some other authors, and we're going to have some publishers and some editors, and there's going to be a combination of folks that will be there on the website. And Jessica did put in the chat so you can see how to contact her and how to connect. So I'm going to give everybody a little clue. When you go to the chat and you open up the chat where it says everyone, if you click on the little 3 dots over to the right hand side of the chat, one of the top things that says save chat. So you don't have to try to write everything down that Jessica just typed. You can just save it, and it'll save it right into your device.
I'm looking for those 3 dots.
Yeah, to open up the chat, like you're going to type in the chat, and where it says to everyone there at the bottom of the chat, where it says to type your message here, go all the way over in that little tiny box and you'll see 3 little dots. And when you hover over those, it'll say more. And when you click on those, it says save chat. So you can save the chat there. Or if you if you're on a phone and you're coming to us on a phone, you can just open up the chat and screen print it. I've done that before too. So those are some ways to save
I
that.
learned a new trick.
Yeah, so you can save it that one of those 2 ways, and you don't have to write all that down. But if you forget, or you don't have a way to write it down or whatever, kathybinner.com, Ohio Writers Guild, free stuff, it's all there. And you can visit that anytime. So perfect. I love it. Any other questions? I just want to thank everybody for being on board with us tonight. This has been so fun. Jessica, I'm so excited for you. I can't wait. I can't wait. I put in an order, almost every week. So your book is definitely on the list.
Yay.
And I have them here. I don't know if I can show you. I have, every time I get, new books, I keep them here on my desk.
Aw.
And so anyhow, your book will definitely go right here as soon as it comes in. I can't
Awesome.
wait. Yep, I can't wait to read it. And then, of course, I know what's going to happen is that I'm going to have to, join your fan base so that I get word when your next book comes out. So
Yes, and I'll have that on my website too. And one thing that I'm actually doing on my website, I created a blog, but from the main character's point of view, because I wanted to continue that relationship even when you're done with the book.
Oh, nice.
So it's her blog diary entries basically that I'm doing on there.
How fun is that? Now
It
I
is.
haven't seen it. That is very unique. I love that. I do. That's very unique. You're very creative, Jessica. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank you.
Well, good things come from self-publishing. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. He submitted to 28 publishers and was rejected. He finally self-published. It was a father-son journey that he did. It was a memoir, whatever. And he got picked up by a publisher. It goes into reprint every couple of years. It's a hugely popular book, but self-publishing is your entry in. It's way better than going through the agent. And that, I don't think it's financially gratifying at first, but you could get picked up. You could get picked up, and that's cool. It's nice you did it. I'm going to encourage my daughter to do the same. I love her book.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and maybe
Well, so for all of you that are on the call, please visit our Facebook group. It's just the Ohio Writers Guild. If you have anything published that you want to advertise there, please feel free to do that. Jessica, please jump over to the Ohio Writers Guild group. It is a Facebook group, and you can put a link there for folks to follow you. And then you'll see some new authors that are coming on board. And what we're trying to do is we want to inspire all the new authors out there that it's being done. It can be done. Just keep writing, keep going. And we want to be an inspiration to all of them. And we want to help lift you up and highlight you and what you're writing and the fact that you're writing. And we just want to just bring awareness around your words and your message. And that's our whole purpose as the Guild, is to do that. So please join us on our Facebook group. Go back, watch a lot of the replays. We've had some great authors on there with some amazing messages. And we ask the same questions every time, how did you get started? How are you monetizing this? How are you? And so you'll hear everybody has a different take on that. And it's so interesting to hear all the different versions of how they're monetizing their books. So thank you so much. With that, I think we're going to go. If there's not any other questions, we'll wait just a second. Is there any questions? Anybody else want to connect with Jessica before we go? And again, I'll put in the chat one more time. If anybody wants to screen print that, it's kathybinner.com. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Please put on your calendars the first Tuesday of every month at 6:30, and we will see you next time.
thank you,
Thank
Kathy.
you. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.